Some of you will know that I have a program to help little kids in the kindergarten. I don't do that directly myself, but a number of kindergarten field officers sit with me on a regular basis as we enter into the training and developmental programs to help these little ones who have been traumatized at some point in their life. One of the sessions recently, we took as our topic the issue of the fragile child. And as we began to talk about the fragility of little children, the teachers or the kindergarten field officers said to me, "But what about our fragility?" So the mother delivered her child to the kindergarten, and as she nudged him through the door, she said, "He's a bit fragile today." And the people on the inside interpreted that to mean, treat him gently, give him time, maybe he'll settle down. Or we might go to a middle-aged man in his hospital bed, and perhaps we ask him, "How are you today?" And he might reply, "I'm feeling very vulnerable." We are unable to interpret that statement. So we ask a further question. What question? What's making you feel that way? And he might reply, I'm afraid. I don't think I'm going to be able to cope with what's ahead of me. We're likely to say, "Oh, you're in good hands. You're in the right place." So in effect, we don't really deal with the issue. We step around it. So the child at the kindergarten is distressed, and at any moment is likely to fall in a heap. And then we have this man in hospital, fears he'll not be able to cope, that he may not have the strength to meet what's ahead. Or we might move to a different crisis. Two people have fallen out. They've had a relationship of some kind at work or in their marriage, whatever. And one says, "I can't put up with this any longer." And the other continues to blame and criticize and scoff. And the first then states it again, "I don't have the strength nor the tolerance to go on with this." When there are such categorical statements, do we say, "Well, there's nothing we can do"? End of story. Something has gone wrong here. Is it with the personality in those various instances? In each case, they need some strength. Strength to cope, strength to heal, strength to be able to walk on, strength to reassess and reconstruct. There are times when we all endure the storms and stresses of life with a thin skin. Said one teacher to me the other day, "I need to refine my thick skin." You know, much of child development, from the small child through adolescence to adult education, involves somewhat developing a thick skin, being able to be rationally tolerant, finding an emotional coherence, being resilient, turning aggravation into adaptability. But we develop our sensitivities, our sore spots, our emotional explosive points, and they put us out of focus. Suddenly all the niceties get lost under a rush of negative non-negotiation and nihilistic myopia. We quickly forget or ignore the words of Psalm 103 that I read to you today, these words, "In the very depths of my soul, there is planted a belief in the goodness of God." You could retranslate that if you like, the goodness of life. "My God brings a healing influence over my emotional wounds and opens me to the very gift of love. Even when I hit rock bottom, a pathway is there for me to recover and be renewed. When we are too close to our vulnerabilities, reacting explosively to injustice or insecurity, these words don't sit helpfully in front of us. We say that's Bible stuff. In fact, we much prefer to soak ourselves in the surety, perhaps, of Sam Harris's arguments set out in his book, The End of Faith. Let's have an end to faith, he says in effect. And his examples and arguments are very persuasive. So persuasive, in fact, that you're likely to miss some of the essentials of faith, which he fully acknowledges and endorses. At the beginning of chapter 7 in his book, he says, at the core of every religion lies an undeniable claim about the human condition. It is possible to have one's experience of the world radically transformed. That's what he says. But he goes on to say, you don't need all the lumber of religion, all its creeds and dogmas and carry on to get that to happen. And isn't he right? I would far sooner look at an analytic view of human experience than walk on with lumps of religious dogma that I can't digest or understand. Yes, we do need faith. Faith in the possibilities of that human goodness planted within us. Faith in healing influences for our emotional wounds. We need faith in basic human decency in our public life as in our own life. We need faith in the different layers of love. We need faith in resilience, recovery, renewal. And our task is to develop our faith in the right strengths to cope with our sensitivities and our fragilities. So rather than reacting impulsively or explosively, can we find a more effective way to tame our untamed Moby Dick that roars through our life? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible to cope, but to do more than cope, to find enrichment in life and contribute to that enrichment. Long before Robert Frost in 1920 wrote his poem, A Road Not Travelled, long before Scott Peck in 1974 wrote his book, The Road Less Travelled, Dante Alighieri wrote his Inferno in the year 1300. And this is what he said at the very beginning. Halfway through the story of my life, I came to a gloomy wood because I'd wandered off the path, away from the light. And so his staggered journey through hell began. A strenuous, stressful journey. A journey of fear, but also a journey of faith. Culminating in the last words right through to the end of the book. He said, my guide and I began at the last to climb the hidden route, to journey back to the world of light. And caring not the rest, but resolute, we climbed and we climbed until we caught sight of a rounded hole where I could see the beautiful sky above. And we emerged to see the stars once more. A beautiful image. A journey of faith and strength renewed. So what strength of personality do we need to be more alive to coping with our existential fragility, our acquired vulnerabilities, our apprehensions of insecurity, and the realities of our time, of feeling defenseless and sometimes feeling quite hopeless? In psychological language, we can trace 6 or 7 such vital strengths. And each one of them is thoroughly endorsed by a sensible religion that is devoted to helping us to live a better life. So let me touch a few of these. In our fragility and our vulnerability, our lives can quickly fall out of focus. In fact, we start focusing on the wrong things. We focus on the fragility, on the damage, on the trauma, and we cease to remember that we could focus on the strengths. We're likely to change focus from the search for those strengths to focus and remain focused on the chaos of our discontent. In recent times, much has been written and taught about meditation and mindfulness. Indeed, the 2 books that I commend to you today of Ian Gawler's, they do just that. They are both concerned about focusing the mind, focusing the body, focusing of faith in the processes of healing, on the processes of resilience. Without that adequate forward focus, we run all over the place in an unfocused life, even denying those things that would be in our best interests. Strength number 1, focus, correct focus. Strength number 2, we need to regulate our emotions, to reduce the negative emotions of depression and anger, of distress and excessive anxiety, and to purposely study ways to increase our positive emotions and our positive moods. The mind can change everything. You can conquer cancer. These priorities. They set out a plan of how this can be achieved, how it can be sustained. Regulating emotions affects your mind state, affects your health of your heart, transforms your behavior and your interpersonal enjoyments and satisfactions, affects the way you handle your grief and your pain. Here, again and again, I've repeated the pathways from mind to emotions, to mood, to behavior, to personality, to relationships, to the flow of life. Mind, emotions, mood, behavior, personality, relationships, to the flow of life. And to highlight the pathway, we carry our processional staff into church every Sunday morning. We bring in our life. Our life is here, we hope. That's the focus. We focus our life here, will be refocused, renewed. And then we carry it out again into life. Regulating emotions was number 2. Number 3, the strength of personality comes in the conduct of our relationships. Sometimes we become a mess in our relationships. And our relationships diminish in their strength, in their enjoyment, in their enrichment, because we lose ourselves in the mess of mismanaging our conduct, of messing up our dependence and our autonomy, of messing up what we take away and what we contribute. Our temperament fragilities are fed by the emptiness of our stimulations. And whatever the relationships, we lose constructive rationality under the weight of irrational damage and unhealed insecurities. Sometimes we believe the strength of our destructiveness is far more important than building a stronger, quieter personality. Number 4, it follows that the strength, number 4, is to give attention to your impulse control. Impulse deceleration, coupled with distress tolerance. High levels of distress can rapidly run into uncontrolled reactivity. Rational strength requires much practice in impulse deceleration, in increasing your tolerance for distress, recognizing that though impulse reactions may come readily, they are likely to make a bad situation much, much worse. We can get better control, impulse control. Number 5, there is that capacity to reposition yourself in relation to the stressor or to the stressful event. The primitive impulse is to go in there and fight. But the different wisdom is to reposition yourself. Find an adequate distraction, practicing the quieting response. We can read the books, and we should. We can visit the Himalayas, and so we might. We can shake hands with the Dalai Lama, and that would be good. But the quieting response is always our homework. Needs practice. Number 6, we need that strength to intercept our negative ruminations. Seek a new mood. Learn more about human moods and their movement. Be open to a different coloured light to shine into the depths of your mood. Break into the ruminations of darkness. We know black moods, dark moods, stormy moods. We know them. In those times, we rarely pause to imagine that perhaps a colourful light could shine into those dark places and transform the darkness of our moods, transform and inhibit our ruminations. We can all easily gloss over the story of the rainbow in the Old Testament mythology, but the magic of the story is in the exquisite colours of the rainbow. Years ago, the artist Joy Peck, now deceased, presented me with a large painting of the rainbow spanning the chaos of the storm beneath. It is a great symbol of the work I do every day. And so the painting hangs in Cairnmillar. Curiously, I complained about it to her. I said the rainbow is not perfect, not as perfect as it ought to be. It has a bump in it. She just looked at me. And then I realized that she was telling me something very important. A 7th strength, imagination. Rigidities are well known. Oh, we all want our landscapes and our seascapes and our mindscapes to be the way we want them to be, nothing else. We think we're all so much more secure if we can be rigid and everything controlled. But we have a great gift that can lift us over all these things cut and dried to the imagination of the flow and flourish of life. You may have seen the photographs, perhaps, of Holbein's painting, Holbein, Holbein's painting of the dead Christ in the tomb. There are 2 striking realities for me in the painting. First, there is the stark reality of a dead body. And second, there is this light which shines in the space all around it. Now, many interpretations have been given for this, but for me, I see it as the confrontation with human mortality, the death of everything, and yet a light shines into that stark reality. It says this, I think. We all strive every day to make sense of our pain, our sorrow, our damage, our dying. But a light can shine and changes the way we see ourselves in the darkness. As I read Ian Gawler's book, The Mind That Changes Everything, I jumped with excitement as he wrote about the image of a light shining a stream of loving kindness. Breathe it, he wrote. Feel it flow through you. Surely that changes us. It can generate radiant physical vitality. His words. Imagine releasing your destructive emotions and thoughts and filling you with a life-affirming energy. John O'Donoghue, in his book Divine Beauty, wrote, "The imagination is like a lantern. It illuminates the inner landscape of our life and helps us discover their secret archaeologies. Every heart," he says, "is full of creative material. There are depths in us hungering towards the light." That is why I have a passion for psychoanalysis, in fact, because it sets out to shine a new light into our damaged places. But believe me, that is also why I have a passion for an enlightened religion, because it says a light shines in the darkest darkness. If you walk in the light as he walked in the light, then everything changes. New possibilities are in front of us. Indeed, the faith that some people would so easily discount, so impatiently discard, the faith of your Bible repeats in many places, "Behold, I make all things new." Before you've even thought about it, it's happening. So there are 7 strengths for the practice of a healthy, stronger personality. A constructive focus on the goal of healing and health. Good regulation of your emotions. Watching your conduct in relationships. Effective impulse control. Repositioning yourself in relation to the stress. Intercepting your negative persuasive ruminations, and having a positively colourful imagination. They're not easy to sustain. That's a good reason to keep faith alive. Faith in yourself. Faith in the goodness of life, as the psalmist said, and faith in the new possibilities of life. Would you please stand? So here is the blessing for today. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.